Hey everybody. So today's project is going to be putting some red stripes down. I taped off a lot more of the car than I thought I would initially, but there's a little bit of wind today, so it's going to be just as well. I did leave the tail end blank just because the red stripes are going here, and that's pretty much it. So I've got things fairly well covered. There's a little bare spot down there, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to try and control the paint as much as I can, and of course when you're dealing with spray paint, the one thing you really can't do is control the crap. So I guess that's pretty much it. Once the red is dry in a few hours, I'm going to go back to doing some panel lines with the airbrush. And so today's choice of red was Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch Gloss Colonial Red. And I thought I had 2 cans of it, but it turns out no. I only have 1 can, and I pretty much blew my load right here, and it really looks nice. 1 can was just enough to get some really good coverage. It's nice and thick, satiny. Of course, being gloss, I'm going to have to turn that into a matte eventually. And now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if I can do any panel lines today. Simply because even though this is fast drying, it's going to be wet for a while. And I don't want to accidentally lean into it and ruin the texture of it. So I think that might be it for today, and then I'll do more next week, the week after. One thing I did forget as soon as I was spraying this is to look at my reference. And I had done a little Photoshop work, and just like the X-Wings in all the reference photos I found, there really wasn't any single red stripes that went all the way down except for the actual studio set piece, Red 1. And that had one complete red line going down the sides, but all of the models have breaks in the red. And I had really wanted to do that. I still can, of course, but I would have rather done that here and now rather than painting white or gray or whatever color over this, because once this gets scratched, and it certainly will being Los Angeles, it's just going to reveal red underneath. So I'm looking forward to pulling this tape off. I might just do it sooner than later, and but it'll definitely be at least an hour or 2 before I go driving around, that's certain. So again, I don't know about doing any panel lines. I suppose I could do some on the back, well, no, because I really need to mask all the glass off. So that's what's going to be up for the panel lines, is masking glass specifically. And I think one last thing that I'm going to do with this is a lot of little spot colors. On screen, the X-Wings just look like they're gray with red stripes, but really they are significantly more than that. There are colors everywhere all over the bodies. And what I'm going to do next, I think, is encase the entire car in contact paper. And rather than relying on spray cans necessarily, I'll go with the airbrush and do specific spot colors all over the place. Grays, blacks, greens, more golds, definitely some more reds, and all sorts of everything else. There's a lot of blues as well on the X-Wings, and I'm not going to do any particular X-Wing as far as reference goes. It's just going to have the feel of it. So let me get cracking on pulling this tape off. Okay, so I decided I'm going to do a little weathering while I'm here, just to dirty up this white. It's far too bright for me, so I'm going to keep away from the windows so I don't get any paint on them at all. And apart from the gloss, I'm liking these stripes. One problem, obviously, that I did have was getting the mask lines exactly right, but I'm pretty sure I can cover that up in another round of paint, if not hide it in the weathering and panel lines. So one thing, being in nature typically means you can't control the elements. So there's a little piece of crap there, and of course there's probably going to be dust in the paint and all sorts of shit. I wound up pulling into the column in my front yard again. Let's see if So I wound up pulling into the column in my garage port again, and this is what initially caused me to paint up this entire area. So it's kind of fitting that I did so. I'm wondering if this rusty looking stuff is me with the airbrush last week or actual rust. This crack was here before. I don't know if I did that or not though. It does look good, and I'll probably do that in a few places. There's lots of spot silvers to put around all over as well, and generally a fair amount of work to go. So I'm thinking for the final spot paints, what I'll be doing is cover the entire body in contact paper and then cut out small areas and brush those locally. That should give me pretty good control over everything as far as where all the colors are going to go. And being contact paper, it'll be nice and flush everywhere. And I think that's mostly it. This hood was the original color that I wanted the entire car to go for a base color. So this is all that's left. Well, I got the rear fender as well that is this color. So I'm really debating whether I put more of this around the body or actually start working this away with other colors on top of it. So up here there's another section that I've got to fix. And yeah, so let me do some panel lines for a while. And here's what I should have pulled out before I started all this. I sat down with Photoshop and just did some really basic fast stuff here, drawing a few panel lines here and there. And initially I was going to take the red stripe and bring it all the way into this area here, but I think this looks a little better. But I'm probably going to paint away some of this gray here. And this is the only other red. I've really had a difficult problem figuring out where I'm going to put the wing stripes. There's just no good place to put it. It looks a little too Van Halen for me right now. And looking at the actual car itself, there's a lot less space there than initially thought. And also considered putting the wing somewhere in this area here, but nothing's really coming to me exactly, so I gotta really sit down and think about that for a while. Otherwise, the headlamps here is the only other place where I'm really gonna put any red, I think. Maybe a couple squares here and there. I'm gonna save this yellow-black striping on the bottom for another day, and I might even take that up a little further. I decided where I'm going to put the torpedo tubes, and that's going to be up in this area here. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so let me do a little weathering. What I'm going to use is this piece of cardboard here. And I'm just going to hold this up against the body and throw lines down wherever I think I want them. So I'm not going to be too accurate or specific about it. That's too bad. And one other color I may put down today is this Floquil Grime. This is actually a color that was used on the Millennium Falcon and the X-Wings back in the day. So nothing like getting really accurate there. So let me get a little more painting done. See you in a few. Alright, so I am done for the day. Lots of weathering. The Floquil Grime was pretty cool. It's probably hard to tell, but there is a lot of it on here, such as in this gray space here. So I kind of used it to lighten things up, and then I put it all over the front fender here. I still have a long way to go. Long, long way to go. This red is definitely far too glossy. Not happy with the back at all yet. There's still a ways to go on that. This area might be a little too busy. But again, the more I weather it, the better it's going to look. And I'm probably going to do these mirrors in yellow, I think. Just to give them a little more visibility. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Can't wait to get my new license plate. And I'll get some shots of this on the street eventually. At least I can live with it at this point. It was just too clean before. This white is still a little too white for my liking. But this is much closer to what I want. Looking at the X-Wings, I might just put some like rivets and might even glue some little styrene and sheets and greeblies on here. That could really add to the look of it overall. So I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See ya.